All right, everyone, it's about that time. We are ready to go. Welcome back. 343 TV, Selway Techno, Saturday. I am, as you see below here, and very obviously John Selway. Happy to be back on this week after last week didn't go so well. Some of you might have been around. Had Keith Tenniswood, Radioactive Man, and we had just a serious show-stopping error in the software. There was no way to get back on it in time. So he's rescheduled. Just to let you guys know right off the top, thank you for bearing with us last time. And he's going to be back on next week. So, of course, 343 TV is brought to you by 343 Labs. We're a music production school based in New York and Berlin. A lot of online courses going on. We have in-person courses. We do workshops. We've got our Discord server going on. The community is building. As always, please check out our links in the description below if you want to hear more info about what we have to offer you and how you can get involved. I'm regularly teaching Ableton live production courses, and I do a synthesis and sound design for producers course, which we're starting up soon. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check out our information below. And without further ado, I want to just dive right in with our guest today. We have Phil Bolland, known as Sync24 from Cultivated Recordings. Let's say hello. How's it going today?
Hey man, all good.
Excellent. So we've really had kind of a big ramp up this week to get ready for today, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, a little bit. Get my internet up to speed.
That's right. We had Cat6 cable installed. We've figured out all this complex audio routing to get from his computer over the internet into mine for the stream. It's been a real, and then the whole time I'm like nervous because of what happened with Keith last time. We don't want to repeat that, but I think we've got it rock solid. It looks good. It sounds good. I'm pretty happy. Let's just acknowledge the chat. We've got a very busy chat already today. We've got a good number of people tuning in. I think we have a lot of new viewers today. Brandon Vasquez is here for the wisdom. He says Sync24 is a legend. And yeah, you've been at this for a while. That's a really nice thing to hear. We've got some regulars in here, as always. Andrew Duke, he was in here first. He's almost always in here first. One of my students, Paul Vanderwerf, is here. Lie Society is here. Who else is down here? There's a lot of new names. So welcome everybody who's here for the first time. Let's mention we have our giveaway this week. We've got a really good one. We've got an Ableton $200 certificate that we're giving away. So there should be info in the chat here from 343 Labs. You still have time to enter, and we will be announcing towards the end of the show, probably by the last 15 minutes, we'll have the winner here in the chat, and also I'll shout that person out and say congratulations. Now, Phil. This has been good, like hanging out this week. We've been kind of talking about music and, you know, what we're into and how we got started and our sort of journey. And that's how I kind of want to start out here, is have a listen to some of your music, talk a little bit about, you know, how we got into the music that we do. And, you know, your electro is your thing. Have I heard any music from you that isn't in that world? I don't think so.
It's funny you say that. Actually, I don't want to say too much about it because I'm keeping it anonymous. I'm starting a new label, and it's completely non-electro, and it's completely a lot of different music: hip hop, house, IDM, a ton of stuff. Also, I know we touched on. I do a lot of my work down at the studio in Devon. I'm Devon Analog. I've written. I think we've got up around 50 tracks now that I've been making over the last few years. That's going to kick off in September.
Wow.
I'm going to say no more.
That's already some big news from you.
Actually, it's a weird thing you ask that because not to say that I'm bored of electro in any way at all, but it's just a sound that I've been making. No. I'll finish. I'm definitely not bored of electro, but no, it's just a sound I've been making for a long time, you know, and it's I got my formulas and everything, and it's, you know, I can not to say, you know, to sound big-headed about it, but I can kind of I've got my formula and I can kind of bang the tracks out, fairly formulaic. So I just wanted to kind of challenge myself a little bit in, there's a lot of other music that I grew up on, drum and bass and, like all kind of old Warp records and stuff like that. And I just wanted to, some new challenges really. So
no, I think that's good actually. And I think your electro will get better because of that. I think it's really important, even if you're really solidly into a genre, you could be so purist about your sound as a producer or as an artist, but being open to other types of music and trying to create them, you will learn more and you can apply that and make your own, like what you do as an electro artist better, I think.
It's also funny because the people like my peers that I've shared the tracks with, they've been like really blown away by it, and they're just like, "Whoa, okay, this is like a."
They didn't expect that. They're like, it's a whole nother direction.
A lot of people are sort of saying it's I don't know, a little bit of a. It's kind of hard to. I don't. It's the new stuff I've been doing with my friend. It's like it's kind of hard to put like a genre on it. It's just kind of a real blend of sounds. Obviously that electro influence and. I mean, that coming back to the real emphasis on this new stuff as well is like really high-end production.
Good. I'm really looking forward to checking that out.
I'll send them to you, man. But yeah, I'm just... my main reason for not like announcing it is I don't really want to tag it onto the whole CE thing because it's a very different project. So it's kind of been interesting, like completely building something new and just... launching it as a completely new thing, but actually with all the knowledge of all the years of the work I've done. So yeah, watch this space. I'm sure over time it'll all come out, but yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. So I guess that's some nice news for everyone. If you're already a fan of Sync 24, that you have some other projects to look forward to in the future. I'm noticing a comment here from 4 Cantons. Sync 24 is really a human being. What a big disappointment.
Okay.
No, which makes me think of Client 3. I think you must be familiar with Client 3, who I don't know who this person is, but they are very anonymous. Is it a guy?
I believe, yeah, it's a guy. Yeah.
But the whole persona is it's an artificial intelligence, right? Like it's not a real human, and it's all the communication is done publicly through. Like I heard an interview with like a speech synthesizer.
Oh wow! Okay. It's funny because it's actually like a guy. The label he releases a lot on Astrophonica. I went to college with the guy who runs that. A guy called Charlie, and it was weird because it kind of I got sent some tracks from it, and it was a little bit of a full circle thing again because I hadn't spoken to Charlie in a long time. He's like a really good drum and bass producer.
Oh, cool.
Fracture he does it under, but yeah, I like all that Client 3. Wicked producer, really good.
Yeah, Client 3 is great. Anybody out there who hasn't checked out Client 3 and you love electro, go do it now. It's really fresh and modern, also
it's
like
got a little bit of that like jungle. Some of it's got some of that like kind of jungly rave vibe.
Sure, there's a little bit of breakbeat and bass in there as well.
It's good, man.
I'm all into that too, honestly. Let's see who else is in here. Enigmatic Onion is another regular. He's back. Nice to see you here. And Lasha Mezvrilshvili, I'm sorry if I butchered your last name, has requested to do a robot dance. Are you ready? We don't have to.
There, give us some of that.
Is that what you wanted? Okay.
Yeah, you got it. No more party tricks today.
I think that's, we'll see. We were talking before about how we're wearing the uniform. You're like, yeah, we're wearing baseball caps and dark t-shirts and we make electro and we have beards. So we're wearing the electro uniform, at least ours, I guess for today. I don't know if that's a thing, but it was kind of funny here. You didn't change your hat though. It's still blue.
Kept the blue. I did have a black one, but no, we'll stick with blue today. A little color.
Nice. So let's talk a little bit more about your early days and get into listening to some music, if that's all right.
Yeah, man. So my early days, so let me see. So I started out, I started DJing really young actually. Like my friends have always been a little bit older than me. And I sort of got into kind of, my first sort of sounds I guess were kind of hip hop, old Ninja Tune and stuff like that. I started DJing when I was like maybe 12, 13. Just kind of playing records with my friends and I sort of learned to mix. I was really into drum and bass when I was like 15, 16. and then I went to college. Well, my friend, like my best friend, he went to college. He's a couple of years older than me, so he went to college like when I was still in school, and he was introduced to a group of friends there. And I just remember getting lent a tape, and it had ambient works on it, Drexciya Wave Jumper, the early Carl Finlow on Subvert.
Right.
What's that other alias he does? I can't remember. That all electric house album, all that stuff. And that was it really. I heard that, Destroying My Robots, Anti-Rotha, and yeah, I mean, I just got hooked. I was like, this is my sound.
Yeah, I think that's a nice selection of influences right there. It's very clear. I can hear that, like that. That it had all that stuff for me as well with electro had a profound influence.
Yeah, I mean, even to this day, like Carl Finlow, my 101 producer, man, huge respect for that guy.
He has one of my favorite bass sounds in electro. Did you know what I'm talking about? It's like really warm, detuned, but powerful at the same time. It's kind of, I don't know how it's something with the envelope shapes and the compression, and it sounds like hard and smooth at the same time.
I'll tell you the trick. I mean, I've done quite a few collaborations with Carl now. We did a whole EP, so it's been interesting, like getting the projects back from him. But yeah, there's a few little tricks he pulls. I think I notice a lot in his tracks is this like real stereo on the bass.
Yeah.
So he'll keep the lows like centered, but he does all that like phase trickery. And you hear it a lot in drum and bass, where they kind of they filter off the highs and throw the stereo real wide.
I love doing that.
I remember one of the tracks we worked on, and I said, if it wasn't a track we worked on, I did a remix for him. I can't on my label. I can't remember the track now exactly, but I just remember like the bass sound had like layers that were panned hard left and like weird filters, and it was like 3 or 4 layers to make up the one sound. So like some real kind of trickery. And one of the tracks we did an EP. It's called Sign Vibes. Actually, we did a track on an EP that we put out.
Cool.
And I remember getting. You might notice it if you ever listen to the track. Like, it just keeps changing. And he basically, I mean, I don't even know, man. He gave me this Ableton project with maybe like 1,000 clips in there or something, where he'd just been like, he just processed everything in different ways. So the track actually ended up just like, it just keeps changing. Every 30, because I think I arranged it. He gave me all the parts. I arranged the track out.
Right.
Like every 32 measures, it was like I so much stuff to use. The bass just keeps switching. This keeps switching.
I'm gonna take a chance. I know this isn't one of the things that you had lined up to play, but
go on.
Listen. Let's see if anyone can hear this. This is the track Sign Vibes, right? That's the title. Sync 24 and Silicon Scally. That's one of the other alternate names for Carl Finlow, right?
Yeah, for Finlow. Especially as you get into it.
Yeah, just so everyone knows, the way we have the audio routed, unfortunately, Phil can't hear the sound, but obviously he knows it because he made it. I'll jump in a little bit. Sounds good. Cool. Let's get into some of the stuff that you have ready to share with us. I'm curious to hear your selections. I asked Phil to pick out a few tracks that were important to him for sort of over the years. Starting from something older to something more current. So what have you got for us?
Yeah, so I've got like 5 or 6 tracks here. I think when you'd said to me about putting together a little bit of the history and just kind of maybe talking a bit about like my progression and the production and stuff. So I start off with, I did my first EP as Sync 24 on Touching Bass around 2003, 2001. So I just wanted to start off by playing my kind of favourite track on that EP.
Was that Andrea Parker's label, right?
It is, yeah, Andrea's label. So I did this EP called Darker Senses. And I think from what we were saying before, it was just about like, I think for me, going back and listening to this track, like for me, even just, it was quite funny actually. I didn't even have it anymore. I had to buy it on Bandcamp last night to play back. But But yeah, I mean, I just think the production on the track, could be worked on a little bit more. Obviously now, like listening to it because I was young back then. But what is evident for me is the sound.
Go
I
ahead and start
think.
playing it. We can listen and talk at the same time.
Are we good to talk? All right, good. I'll jump straight in on it.
No, it's good. We have the technology.
Yeah, so this is one of my first tracks I ever made. Actually, I did it with a DR660 drum machine, Access Virus. And quite crazily, like all the little snare fills in it, I would just ran them through a delay unit, and I don't know why, I just chopped them up, and it took me forever. I could have probably done it a lot. I should have just got one snare and delayed it, but I made it hard for myself.
But yeah, that's part of the learning process. And if you hadn't done it the way you did it, it would have come out. It wouldn't have been the result. That you would have had a different result with a different process for sure.
But yeah, this is, I think, still like even now, like some of my more later tracks are still really got this vibe. I'll jump in a little bit on it.
I mean, you can tell from the production that you're operating at a higher level now, as we'll see. But this still has a good balance to it, and it still has the right vibe. Like,
yeah, well, this is interesting because we were talking yesterday about how I work pretty much exclusively in audio now when I'm arranging. This was all MIDI. I mastered everything to that back then. So I just run it all up the board live off my hardware, and then just record the track, like arrange it all in MIDI, and then just record it down. My style's changed quite a bit now in terms of my production ways, but
right.
Yeah, I still think like for me, like the sonic palette in this is like definitely. I think that was the thing. I kind of got in a groove with my sound quite early on. I think I was like 19 when I made this, 19, 20. That was my first year at university.
Okay. Let's listen for a sec. It's dark.
Dark and sensitive, yeah.
Nice. I don't think I hadn't checked this one out before. I like this.
Yeah, it's nice. Maybe I'll play it. Maybe I'll get this back and give it a little refix and stuff.
Sure, you could do a lot just with the remaster.
Yeah, no, exactly. Especially with the software that's out there now, you can really spruce stuff up.
Look who it is in the chat. James Freer, Science Cults. Thanks for dropping by. Nice to see you here. You're familiar with that label, aren't you, Phil?
Science Cult. No,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
Check it out.
Yeah, good electro label.
In fact, the name rings a bell.
Sure, I'm sure you've seen it. Nice.
Yeah, so that was that was more like one of my really early productions. The next track I pulled out was basically on my Cultivated Electronics #2, which has become a very sought after record now.
Oh, nice.
It's kind of crazy because I remember at the time when I started the label, I couldn't actually sell these things, and now I see people trying to sell it for like £400 on Discogs, which seems pretty crazy.
Scarcity.
I literally couldn't get rid of the things back then when I started it.
Should make an NFT of it now.
Well, this is it, yeah. the modern age. But no, my reason for picking this track out was this is the first track when I really started editing audio heavily, which I think you'll really hear in the track.
Well, yeah, no, that's a big part of your life outside of making electro. That's one thing that you do. You do a lot of work in audio, don't you?
Yeah, no, I work as a sound designer. Yeah, a company called Factory Studios in London. We do like TV commercials. But no, it's a really good job. I do a lot of like really cool sound design projects. For brands like Honda, Nike, some like big budget commercials.
That's great.
Which is good. I mean, that was like a real clear choice I made at university, was to not just pursue the DJ thing and really get my head down with the like to have a career alongside it. And then subsequently, I've become successful at that job, and then a few years back, everything kind of really took off quite big for me with the electro too. So I will just say, like, hard work, it does pay off.
Well, and I would say you were really well set up to survive the transition into our pandemic days, because you don't have the gigs, but you still have the audio editing and sound design work to carry you forward. Yeah,
no, I mean, that's the thing. It's also, I'm very fortunate because I absolutely love my job equally as much as I like making music. And, I'm just lucky. I spend, 80% of my life sort of just with audio. just all day, every day at work, and then pretty much every weekend, evenings, just constant.
I understand.
I'm blessed to do something that I appreciate so much.
That's great. Let's check out the next one.
Yeah, so this one just good example, which I think you'll hear of. Let me play it while I talk, so I can do both. Really good example now of just getting into the editing, taking everything into audio and kind of chopping it around, playing with the effects. I actually remember when I made this track, it took me so long. I mean, I don't know how long I spent on it. I was pulling my hair out, and I remember actually saying to my friend, the guy called Matt Whitehead, who I do some tracks with under an alias called Signal Type, that I was like, I'm never writing a song like this again, because it almost like broke me with the editing. I've got a lot quicker at doing that now. So.
Right. No, that is something to consider. Working in audio primarily when you're arranging. We spoke about this the other day. Like, there's sort of instant gratification and all these things you can do really quickly with audio that would be a lot more trouble to do programming MIDI and automation, that kind of thing. But also, the workflow can be really painful if you don't have your shortcuts together. If you don't really know your software really well, it can be very slow. So I totally know what you mean by that.
But that's the thing. Like, even now, which you'll see with when I do the little track breakdown later, I even edit even my drums and everything. I just will suck in an 8-bar loop, and then I do all my programming in audio, just like on the grid.
Nice. And
jumping a little from this one.
It also really works for this kind of electro because it's really sharp and precise, all the changes. And that goes with the feel of the groove really well.
I'll just say this little build up here, I'll just give a little shout out.
Let's listen.
Weirdly, that little rise there was a little homage to I remember walking into a club like mid-20s, and that Audion mouth-to-mouth track by Matthew D was playing, and I was just like,
that track's amazing.
With that build, and the club was just going berserk, and I was like, wow. I actually saw him live.
Yeah, he's pretty good, huh?
It was one of the best live sets I saw when he just released that mouth-to-mouth.
Nice.
Just tears the club apart, that one. But yeah, so that's why I picked that one out. That was number 2 on the label. That came out around like 2007.
Okay.
My next track was like my first solo EP on Cultivated. Again, I kind of just pulled this one out because I think obviously I'll say this now, listening like to my production, how it's progressed. But again, I just feel that this is another like good example, and it was interesting for me to listen to these last night. I'll start playing it on this.
Sure. Let me ask you a question real quick from the chat, having to do with hardware, actually, because I think people are seeing what's on the shelf behind you.
Yeah.
NYM053, interested to hear how you'd use the Sherman in your music. I'm always uncertain if I should go get it or not.
If I'm honest, if you want a really good example, if you maybe want to put it up, John, if you've got it there, there's a track I did Sync 24 and Alienata, and it's called Confused on Killy Kill.
I have that one.
Yeah, play that and I'll show you why.
All right.
That is basically, that's a good example of that Sherman. If I'm completely honest, I haven't really got into using it so much as a filter. I just paralleled it and smashed the crap out of everything.
Interesting.
So you'll hear it if you give it a little spin in a sec.
What was the name of the last track again, real quick? I'm sorry, there's another question from the chat.
Say that again to me, mate.
The last track we played?
The one before this one?
Yeah.
That was Resynth. It's called Resynth on C002. But no, the reason I pulled this one out is, again, like, you can really hear that I did this around the same time as Resynth, like the getting back into the audio editing. But it was just a good example for me of like, regardless of like my production and how it's progressed and all that stuff, for me this is like, I was really hitting the stride with my sound. Mm-hmm. And like this to me now is like, I don't know, that was something I would like to point out to maybe people that are like, I don't know, earlier producers and stuff like that. When I was first writing tracks, I felt like everything I made was like getting better. Mm-hmm. And then I hit a point where it wasn't that anything was getting better anymore, it was just all different. Each production would be a different production.
Right.
So I don't know. That's, you can always be striving to do something more, but I think you do. As a producer, there comes a time where you kind of hit your stride, and you just feel confident in your work.
That's a good thing to like kind of aspire to, but you got to do the work to get there. For sure.
Yeah, because that was just to go back to like that's the first track I played. I remember listening to that. I put it on the decks and be like, oh, I like it, but there was something missing. And to go back to like Carl Finlay, I put on Carl Finlay records, or I put on the Rother records. And I'm like, oh, I don't like. There's just something not there, and I didn't know what that something was.
Okay.
Again, as the more you work and you learn, then you get your sound, you hit your stride. That will just naturally come.
Nice.
Yeah,
so,
that's kind of that one. Maybe give him a little spin on, I can't remember the chap's name, but yeah, that Confused track.
What you were just listening to now, that was pretty cool. It was really trippy. I'll be honest, it was hard to concentrate on what you were saying because the sounds are like worming into my brain.
Right, yeah, that's my sound, man. I'm all about that like trippy business.
We have another question from the chat that's pretty good. Yusuf Khalid asks, should I go into hardware or stay software only?
Well, good question. I'm all hardware. I write everything in hardware pretty much. But strangely of late, actually, I'm just in the process of like redoing my studio. I'm actually now going to go back into like, I've got an Ableton push and I want to go into like getting more into the software realm.
Mm-hmm.
I know I touched a little bit earlier about making some new productions. I really like hip hop. I listen to a lot of like, I like a lot of like that American trap sound. I mean, it is just like slow electro, the big 808s.
Yeah, you're right.
So I've been kind of making some of that vibe. And I do all of that in the box with just like messed up samples, big processed 808s. So I've got like a whole EP. I would say that there is no either. Use all the tools that are available to you. That would be my advice.
You say you're all out of the box, but that, to be fair, that isn't exactly accurate because you compose, you program your beats, you make your sounds on hardware, but then it all gets put into the computer and you're doing your, high-tech editing. And that is further shaping the sound and polishing it and arranging it and finishing it. So it's pretty hybrid, isn't it?
In the sense of the sound, my sound generation. Like,
sure.
I mean, the thing, especially for electro, is the analog sound, and that's something again because before I was using all like virtual. You can see my virus I've still got back there. I was using all virtual analog machines for a good period, and then I got a friend from Miami, a guy called Alpha 606. He came and stayed with me. He brought his SH-101, his 606, the Eventide harmonizer, which I love to this day. And then I was like, whoa, okay. The difference being like with let's say an SH-101 or any, a good example is like, a 101 or a Vermona. Like, I really noticed it with the Vermona DRM machine. You record the kick drum in off that machine and the waveform, every single kick is different. Because it's not just a repercussion, and that's what I love the most about using hardware and syncing it all together. It's the little pushes and pulls of the sequencer and the difference in the tones. You can take a 101, run a 1 bar bass line and just tweak it, and you're going to get a whole range of just cool stuff, which again is a massive part of how I work, which we'll see when I get into the track demo.
Right.
Is recording in long passages of audio, and then I go through and really heavily edit that audio to create, the bass lines or whatever it is I need. But to go back to the question, use all tools that are available. And hardware. We have more options now. There's a lot of inexpensive hardware out there that you can get started with. You don't have to go for the high end right away, and you can make music with just a couple of small, inexpensive pieces of gear. But also, I was actually on that note, that's 100% because I do think that now. Like, if I was a kid starting out now, it's great, man. If you've got £1,000 or $1,000, you can get like 4 or 5 the little Korg Volkers, all these little.
There's so much you can do.
A whole studio for £1,000 now.
And the way I think about it also is, in the beginning of all of this, whether it's electro or techno or house or whatever, no one had all this wealth of software and choices and plugins and this many different types of synths in hardware, this many Euro rack modules. It was not available. It was limited. And so all of this music comes from working within limits and even working on cheap stuff you've got used, or, like people got their first 303 synths at from pawn shops, things like that. Like
that's actually an interesting thing. Like, I'm good friends with Ed DMX. We do some work together, and he made a point to me once about people talk about now, like the 303, the 101, all this like prestigious old analog gear. He's like, look, when I started out, they were the cheap machines that you go and buy,
right? And nobody wanted them.
Yeah, he was like, so it's not like now. Oh, I need the 303. It's such a rare bit of kit. It's like, well, no, that wasn't how it was when the machine came out. So, there's a little bit of that. You can get some of the synth elitists, but I don't know. I think just do your thing. You don't
use
have
what
to
you got.
Have all that rare vintage gear. Just do your thing, man.
Let's check out that Confused track real quick. We were
this
we promised.
Just to hear. So all the drum sounds in that are that's just me. Like I run a parallel through the Sherman with TR8 running on a parallel through the Sherman on a group and patched back into the desk, which is really slammed.
So you were using it like a saturator, basically.
Yeah, and remixing the blend back in. But yeah, you'll really hear it on the drums.
I love that trigger out from the 808, man. It's the best sound. It's just a click. It's just a click, but put it through some delay and a little feedback, and it's like the most electro sound that you can make. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And I can hear in the mix of this, it's really got this nice kind of warm squash to it. And that's the Sherman.
Just like real crush. And then what's interesting, a little tip on that is, something I've like a little production tip that I can give on that is, I went through a little period like my desk that I'm using that I've got here, the Midas Venice. It's got analog it's got the sound card built in. I'm not using that as a sound card anymore, but you could clip it. So what I do is I take that signal, run it red hot on the preamps, record it in as just a block, and then just turn it down 10 dB, and you've got this. Your drums are just kicking, but you've got all the and still to play with.
They're doing that kind of blending, compressed or saturated and dry, and like parallel compression and stuff like that is really important to get that density and that impact for sure. And you hear it all over music now. Like it's pretty much like a modern sound for sure. I can't believe it already. We're past the halfway mark. Everybody,
really,
this is 343 TV.
We could do 2 hours.
We could easily go on for 2 hours. No, this is. I'll just tell Phil, like that's always how it goes. You start out feeling like it's never ending, and then before you know it, it's over. But let me just give my little shout out. This is 343 TV, brought to you by 343 Labs, music production school in New York and Berlin. We're here every day. We've got shows on all sorts of subjects in music production. Come back on Monday for Daltrix Tips and Tricks. I believe she's going to be looking at reverb. I don't know. A lot of our shows will focus in on basics for people just starting out. And so she's going to focus in on creative uses of reverb and Ableton Live, I believe. And so that's what's coming up on Monday. And a reminder that we have our giveaway, a $200 Ableton certificate. If you haven't already entered, you should do that. We're going to be announcing the winner very shortly, probably in about 10, 15 minutes, maybe. We'll see. So this is really your last chance if you're going to enter. Check out our links below, 343labs.com, 343labs.de if you are in Germany and you want to see what we're doing in terms of our classes. Have all kinds of music production classes, songwriting, synthesis, sound design. That's what I do primarily, as well as Ableton Live production in general. So yeah, come and check us out. Also, if you're looking for a community to join, to interact with other music makers, to get feedback on your work, we do beat battles every now and then. I think we've got a beat battle coming up soon that you can enter. Join our Discord and see what's going on there. We've got stuff going on all the time. You can get feedback. You can interact with instructors from 343. Highly recommended. So please check that out. Give us a like or a thumbs up or whatever it is you want to do. React to us. Let us know how we're doing. I think we're over 9,000 subscribers now. We'd love to get to 10,000. So if you haven't already, please join us here and subscribing to the 343 Labs channel on YouTube. Now, it's time, Phil. It's time to dive into your DAW of choice and talk a little bit about, your workflow and how you get started and how you then get into the digital domain.
Cool. So I've got a track here. So we're talking about the track production. Or should I just talk about how I do general work?
Well, let's just show us what you've got and we'll go from there.
So I've got here. I mean, I think even as you put in the title of this chat, so my workflow's a little convoluted at the moment. I kind of work across a few systems. So I've just finished my first album, which is going to be coming out in September on CE. This whole album I wrote down at a studio called Devon Analog, which is a really, really great place. I think you've got a little video that.
That's right. Let's take a look at the video.
We'll start here. This is a little interview we did about.
Yeah, since one of the things I asked Phil in the beginning was if he could do like a little demo of what hardware he's using in his studio, but you don't have your studio fully set up right now, I think.
No, and actually, it's a very key point at the moment. Is all of the music I've written, primarily bar a couple of remixes and a few bits in the last 3 years, I've done all of the sound work down in Devon, and then I've just because it's just such a great place to. You can head down there. It's in the middle of the countryside. I mean, you'll see the pictures. It's a dream spot.
Yeah,
the amount of work I can get done in 3 days just to make, 10 loops that I'll then work on, which feeds into what my workflow is going to be.
Great.
But yeah, I'm setting my studio back up, but yeah, everything's been made down there.
Let's check it out.
Hi, I'm Sync24, a producer and sound engineer from London. I run the label Cultivate Electronics. I've been producing for around the last 20 years, running my label for about the last 11, and I'm down in Devon working on a new album and live set at Devon Analog Studios. I have to say it's really opened up my kind of production techniques coming here. My working process is quite convoluted. What I really like about Devon Analog is that I can come here and use all the equipment and basically just sketch out ideas. There's a wealth of gear for processing, a lot of rare analog machines, Waldorf Wave for instance, digital analog thing, but stuff that I can't get my hands on at my home studio in London. It's also completely out in the middle of the countryside here, so you can really just come down, lock away and jam. So it is a bit of an interesting setup, having the Claret running off Ableton, the TR8 and the Korg into the 9.6, and then everything individually patched. So I've got 8 outputs from the Claret, and I've got the stereo output of the Allen and Heath going back into the house system. So when I'm jamming here, this is kind of the hands-on approach that I'm kind of getting my head to of what I may take on the road with me. As I said, I'm just sort of finding my feet with it. But it's all just then seamlessly integrated into all the gear here. So I'm kind of getting the best of both worlds, trying to find my feet with the live setup, but also integrating all of this beautiful studio and sound into my workflow.
That just looked like a dream come true, Phil, like working in a place like that. I mean, sunny, spacious, good acoustic treatment, world-class hardware all around you. Come on.
Yeah. And I mean, that's the thing I mentioned in there, but like really no joke, like that's since I started working there, like my production, I never really got to play with like really expensive outboard, and now I'm kind of addicted to it. I mean, I'm not saying that you need it, but there is a certain thing like, some of these units that, like they've got different compressors down there that they're not cheap, but you put sounds in, it comes out. I never really done too many things where I'm like, I'm struggling to achieve this like sound in the box. And when I came back from there, I was a little bit like, whoa, okay, like there is, there's a charm to some of those units and compressors and things like that. Which is becoming a bit of an expensive habit for me now, trying to acquire all this equipment.
Sure. Well, you can try it out there and see if you want to invest in your own.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Sure.
That's actually kind of a good way to do things. Is you don't have to buy everything.
Sorry, don't say again.
Yeah. So I guess we have a little delay on the Zoom sometimes, but yeah, you don't have to buy all the gear. It could, borrowing or renting gear to try it out, or just getting an hour or two in a studio that has it, just to see if it's something that you want, instead of, especially when it's an expensive piece of hardware, it could be thousands of dollars, right? If you get a chance to hear it first before you make the investment, that might be worth the hour of studio time in a way. And you can you could be creative and capture that recording and use it. So it's not like you're just paying to try it out. You're making music while you're there.
Well, this is the thing. All my music I've written in the last 2 years, I've all made there. I've all run through there. And then I'm really fortunate at my work. We've got a SSL AWS 948. So every single track, every track I've mixed in the last 6 years has been on that board. I haven't put out anything that hasn't gone through that. So so that will kind of lead me now into the workflow.
Let's get your screen share going and take a look at what you're working on.
Yeah, let's have a little look. So let me just share this with you. You getting that? Oh, cool.
We see it.
So basically, this is actually the last track on my album. I've been writing that for like a couple of years, and it's quite a relief actually. I just got it all finished and mastered last week. This track here, I actually literally finished last week. Weirdly, this was the first track that I started in Devon at the studio, and then the last one that I finished. But just to give a little explanation of how my workflow goes, so I probably touched on it a bit in the video. I go down to Devon, right, in terms of this album. I've been going down to Devon. I've been making like basically loops. So like I'll record like 5-6 minute jams on all the equipment, and then I leave there with the audio, and then I come back, and all of that's in Ableton. Half the tracks I might arrange in Ableton, but I was sort of explaining this with you, John, this week. You know, I work as a sound engineer and audio post. I'm on Pro Tools all day, every day, with clients and quite tight deadlines. So I've naturally become very, very fast on Pro Tools. You know, it's kind of become second nature to me as a DAW, and I absolutely love it. So most of the work that I've been doing in the last couple of years, I'm actually looking to probably completely transition over to Pro Tools when I get my kind of new studio set up how I want it. But basically, my workflow has been jamming down in Devon on their house system, or use it with my laptop as well, but I'll mainly kind of use their house system, get all of my sounds in place as like long strips of audio. Then I'll either arrange it in Ableton and then stem it out and put it into Pro Tools, where I'll then do the final kind of mixing and editing before spanning it out on the AWS 948 for the final mix down, which I'll print through the bus compressor.
Got it.
This particular track, I actually, as you can see here, I did the whole arrangement in Pro Tools. So I just took, like, you can see here, like, you know, these are kind of the strips of sounds, like the Juno bass. You know, I recorded 5-6 minute passages of that stuff. I just took away all the drums, all the sounds, put it all in as stems, and then I've just literally worked it from the top. This mix down here is not the final mix because, as I said, I do span it through the board. So I've actually got the final print at the bottom, which we can kind of A/B. But this, just having a little listen through and looking at the arrangement will kind of give you an idea a little bit of like how I work.
Okay.
You can kind of see with the bass lines here, you know, I recorded a ton of jams here. Like each of these is like 5 minutes long. I'll then go through all of this audio and just cut and paste and splice and chop between, you know, different little bits of sound to kind of add interest. You know, it's a really big thing to me in my productions to kind of keep the interest and in the progression of the song. And a lot of what I make is kind of really aimed at the dance floor.
Right.
So, you know, it's about kind of keeping that interest and stuff up. So I'll just give you a little spin of this one.
Cool. And
you getting that all right?
I hear it. Hopefully that everybody, all the viewers can hear it. Give us a thumbs up if it's coming through all right. While we're listening to this intro, I'll just ask you real quick, how much of the arrangement of a track do you have in mind when you're tracking from hardware? Do you already have like a rough sketch of an arrangement, or is it only loops that you arrange later?
Yeah, maybe. Sometimes. I mean, I tend to just kind of get my sounds like down. It's not so much of not necessarily an idea of arrangement. It's more of an idea of making sure I've got all the parts that I need.
Got it.
You know, like as long as I've got all the parts, sometimes I'll jam a ton of stuff out and then I'm like, oh, how am I going to arrange all this? And then I'll sit down and, you know, spend a little bit of time working out. But, you know, I always need to make sure, you know, I really look at producing a little bit like painting in terms of frequency bands.
Right.
I need my sub, my kick, you know, then my mid bass, my percussion, leads, pads, you know, something that fills all the sonic registers of the track. So, you know, if I'm missing an element, then I might make like, you know, a trippy lead or this or that.
Got it.
And then sometimes even when I'm missing elements that I need, I'll then do it in post with effects or stuff. But like, you know, you can see with these bass lines.
Yeah, let's zoom in a little bit. You've got a pretty high res monitor, so I think we're all squinting to see what you're doing.
Yeah, this is just like the Juno bass. So this is written on a Jupiter, sorry, Roland Jupiter. But you can see the little edits. There you go, little switch up to a different part of the bass there. That's kind of what I'm saying about jumping through the audio and just having all the little tweaks to make stuff interesting. Different part again, you can hear where I tweak the filter, different little edit coming up.
Was that a vocal sample I just heard?
Yeah, that's me.
Didn't sound like you. How'd you do that?
My girlfriend was laughing at that because I put all this in. In fact, you know what? Shall I embarrass myself and play it without all the effects on it? Yeah. So I mean, this is exactly what I mean. Like, you know, when I'd finished this track, I just kind of had in mind like the bass is kind of jumping around. It's a little bit of a zany track, and I thought, oh, you know what? I could just get some like I had it in my head like this crazy like little voice. So
you just did it.
Yeah, I just did it on the mic, and then I ran it through, like, let's see what I'm going through on that. I'll chuck that through the channel strip. This is a really good little one, the micro shift. This does all that classic old harmonizer, slightly off-tune setting. Wicked if you want to get your stuff in stereo.
Oh, yeah.
I love all the sound toys. But yeah, this is the voice. Like, I ended up chopping it up, but this is the original.
What were you saying?
I mean, this is what I mean. Let me embarrass myself.
It doesn't even matter.
Why not? Let's embarrass myself.
Oh, look, this is good. Anthony Rother is here.
Oh, nice.
Props to Anthony. Glad you could stop by. He's just said, I'm already at home. Now I have the lust for going back into the studio. Look at that. Did we just inspire him to go home and start making a track?
we go full circle. We started with him at the start. What's
That's
up,
right. Thanks for inspiring us, Anthony.
But yeah,
much respect.
This is literally the this is how silly I was with this. You know what I mean? But look, in my mind, I knew what I wanted, because then when I throw it all on, mess it up, and then
like the stereo width and the format shifting with Alter Boy.
Yeah,
it sounds so cool.
But then look, I then just use little snippets, and then actually in the arrange, you hear it here.
It doesn't even matter what you're saying. It
was just about getting that rhythm and timing. I do it all the time in my tracks.
That's a good tip. And I think it shows that, like, not being afraid to get silly or weird in the name of a result is a really important thing. But like get over
to my girlfriend. She's like, "What? This is like." I had a bit more vocal, and I ended up stripping it back a little bit.
So everybody out there, just if you're afraid to do something, get over yourself and just do it and see if it works.
I mean, it works with the vibe of the track. Like if we jump up there,
it's a little wacky, right? It's a little like my head's spinning around.
But I know 4 a.m. in a packed club, that shit's gonna go. It's gonna work.
Totally.
But I mean, another little tip here, which is interesting, is that again, like with the audio, like here, I just wanted to create a little switch up in the middle of the track. So I just took a sound here, which I've muted now, like from the sequence that I'd made, which was this stuff. And then I just ran it through like Echo Boy and a couple of bits. And then I make a whole little interlude out of the break of it. So like,
I hear that.
It acts as a little transition.
Ed is here. DMX crew is here.
Oh,
welcome.
Yes. What's up, Ed? All the crew.
All of you guys that have been dropping in, there's some real heads in here. I'm really happy to have you here. You got to come back next week for Keith, right? Radioactive Man is going to be here. We're going to do this all over again. You too, Phil. You have to come hang out next week.
So yeah, that's another little trick, which is a little plus with using audio. You can just kind of record stuff back in, process it, mess around with it, make little breaks.
No, I think that's important. Also, like, you don't always have to add more new sounds. You can take what you have and use it in a different way. Well,
actually, very interesting point. And now that Ed's on, because that was another big another big eye opener for me was actually working with Ed, because he was always like, you know, you need like less layers and more, rather than chucking tons at it, get 3 or 4 things to work. And I mean, look, this track here, I've literally got my drums, 1 sequence, 1 bass line, a pad and a voice. That's the whole track.
Exactly.
4 sounds and drums. And then you just get that stuff to, you know, having, when you say again about how I want to arrange stuff, you know,
right.
I just, with all those little passes of the bass, it's about working out, you know, knowing that I've got enough in that one sound to create interest to make a 6-minute song out of it, you know. You don't necessarily have to keep throwing stuff at it. If you can just get the right elements early on, you know, and mix them like that. I might just then very quickly talk a little bit just about like the mix down process as well, because I've got this new plug that I've been using lately. I mean, this is my big thing that I've got into. I mean, especially since working in Devon and stuff, is I'm like really got into the whole production side of mixing. And that was crazy, because like 5 years ago, I was putting out tracks that were done. And now I get to the stage where I used to release the tracks, and I might spend 2-3 days on the mix down of the track. So, you know, there's so much you can kind of do afterwards, but I'm really loving this at the moment, which is the SSL channel.
Nice.
You know, a big thing that I'm about is compression. Every single one of these sounds has got compression on it. And I mean, I'll just show you, like, this compressor, super easy. Like, I'll just show you like how this will take that drum there, bypass the compressor. You hear that, just hear that additional shape and the elongation on the kick, the punch comes cleaner. Same with the snare drum. I mean, I really super slam my snares on the compressor. Like, look, if you see here, let's have a little look. Yeah, I mean, let's listen to that by punching the compressor, and all the snap you get additional out of it. So that's a big part of my production, I'd say, is like, you know, really going in with the compressor. And then again, this is the other thing which I go back to about like how you paint the layers of the song, you know. This is something I chatted with my mastering engineer about. You know, I work with, very fortunate to work with this guy, Matt Colton. He's one of the top guys in England now. Like, he really does, you know, he's doing a lot more like pop music and things. But I've worked with Matt but he's pretty much cut everything bar the first kind of 5 on CE. He's really helped me as well. But, you know, I had these chats with Matt about, it's, you know, like he was saying to me before about doing a masterclass, and people saying, oh, how do you get the perfect kick drum? How do you do that? You know, it's not necessarily about, it's just picking the right sounds. You know, if you, like I say, in this track in particular, I don't have a dedicated sub because the 808 is doing the sub for me.
Sure.
But if you know, on most tracks, I'll make sure I have a dedicated sub, or if it's not the drum doing it, then, you know, I place the kick drum like, you know, 100 hertz up above that, you know, and then just work it up. And then if you've got all of those layers and you're not overcomplicating, the track half mixes itself because you're just putting in the right material at the right places. You know, that's a really big tip I can give people, is just, you know, your sound selection, you know, and going back to what you said, thinking about how you do the arrangement. I mean, that's more so to me than the arrangement is the sonics of the sounds that I'm making.
No,
you know,
that's
if
all.
I complete a whole, oh, sorry, go on, man.
No, that's all. That's really excellent advice, and I think it goes for any style of music. Is pretty much even if you're talking about orchestras, like the reason that the sections of an orchestra are divided up the way they are is the frequency range and the way that those instruments fit across the spectrum. And
I just really quickly one more, because I know we're running out of time. So.
No, we could go a minute over. Let me just, before you go on, let me just say congratulations to the winner of the Ableton $200 certificate, Corey Alleman. Congratulations. We'll be in touch on how to collect. So thanks for being here. Thanks for entering. And again, congratulations to you. So, Phil, you were saying.
Yeah, so this is another big one for me now, is about the final mastering of stuff. And obviously people talk different ways, but I leave tons of headroom. So, you know, this is, I mean, I watch a ton of videos online constantly. That's another thing I can add. Like, you can never know enough. Like, I spend a lot of time watching mixing masterclasses, Mixbus TV, all of that stuff, just constantly trying to get new tips. You know, I really like listening to all the different like pop music producers and mix engineers, just getting like as much knowledge as I can. But this is about like with me leaving quite a lot of headroom. So This is the final mix after it's gone through the SSL, which you'll actually hear now is quieter than what we were just listening to. But this now, you got a little bit more chunk. This has gone through the compressor. I've done some light EQing on the desk. We run it.
So this is like your kind of a pre-master, like you're processing it a little bit.
So this is like basically, this is left here. I've spanned it across the 948 SSL.
So you're getting the separation of the stereo image through that desk.
Yeah, the separation and like some additional EQing, and then a key now, which I can't pull it out. I've actually bought the SSL bus compressor. That's always on my master chain now. That thing is just magic on the glue. But again, you don't have to have the hardware. The plugins are good too. I've got the UAD one. I use the Plugin Alliance ones. They're all really good. I give my masters, like with all this headroom for my engineer. You know, I don't slam it. He likes me to leave the space, and then this is where we get to when it comes back from Matt.
Big and shiny.
100%. So that's the key as well, you know, like having that workflow. Like Matt's hugely a part of my workflow, you know, and I've got a very good relationship with him. And if I'm unsure about stuff, I'll send it over and get advice. And you know, it's been weird because I've been trying to switch my production up a bit lately, and I've done some tracks in the box, and I'm really trying to kind of find my feet with that, because
it's different.
Everything, particularly in the analog domain on my mix downs, I'm actually restructuring my whole studio as a kind of hybrid setup, because I want to start working like pretty much exclusively in the box for my mixes, but running it. I'm on my wish list as an SSL summit mixer, but I've got
that'd be nice.
Ton of EQs and bits like that. But that's you know, that's kind of my next workflow, is to try and get that as good as I can kind of within the computer.
Got it. No, I think that's a good goal, because then you can work wherever you are. And I would imagine that you will still at points go into a studio, but it's nice to be able to finish it to your satisfaction without having to go to the studio, or when you don't have time to go in the studio. Let's say you're on the road when we're touring again, that kind of thing. That's the benefit of in the box, right? You can be anywhere.
Yeah, and the other thing for me is like, because everything that I've been like, we're going back to like parallel compression and stuff like that, because everything I've been mixing down at my work has to be separated out. I don't really do a lot of parallel compressing and stuff like that, because I'll lose that glue, because I need to separate out my elements to EQ them in the studio properly. That's why I want to get into a workflow where I've got it all. If I can solely work in one place, I can make the sounds as I want them as I go. So that's just going to speed up my workflow.
Sure. A couple of questions we have from the chat that are relevant to this. Nickname 123321, very imaginative name there. Does he use a compressor on the master chain to catch the peaks? And I think we've been talking about that a little bit. You know, you've been talking about SSL and bus compression. So
yeah, I use the SSL bus comp. Every mix I do goes through the SSL bus comp.
Right. Now, do you use it to enhance transients or to control transients?
I mean, actually, a lot of time I've got pretty much a standard setting. Again, Matt gave me this setting, and it just works for me. And you know, if you go online and watch a lot of the tutorials, or you know, even if you use the UAD, like they've actually got this preset in there. I basically completely lay off the attack.
Right.
So I'm all the way out on attack, and I'm all the way in on release.
That's the trick.
Basically, this is a tip for, you know, which you should be doing anyway. When you're putting processing onto your sounds or your master, you shouldn't be listening like to the level jump. So what I do is I take my whole track, I drop everything down like 10 dB. So I'm peaking on the meter at about like, you know, -10 on the FS meter. And then I will put the bus compressor in, and then I will level match it, and then I'll just dial it into taste. And what you'll do, even if you use the plugin, if you drop that on and listen to it, it really just solidifies, especially the bass and the low end. And I'll just keep popping that in, you know, usually on a ratio of like 2:1, 3:1. I think what's it? Yeah, like if we're gonna hit like, yeah, either the 2 or 4 setting, depending how much compression you want, and then I just dial the threshold into taste. Yeah. A lot of time I don't use like a lot of compression. I'm only looking for like 2 to 4 dB gain reduction.
So it's a light touch. And I mean, I'll just point out, we're talking about the SSL bus compressor, but of course there are many plug-in emulations of that. And a lot of us are using Ableton Live. And so you've already got the glue compressor in Live, which is modeled off of the SSL. So what he's talking about, you can replicate it very closely, not exactly, but very closely with the glue, with the same kind of settings. It's the long attack, the short release, and a moderate amount of for the ratio. And then, yeah, you don't overdo it. It just makes it kind of, it gives it a little bit of a pop to the transients, and it tightens up and makes it sound a little denser at the same time and warms it up. 100%. It's a really nice, easy thing to put, and you can mix through this. You're not mastering when you do that. You're just kind of applying it to your mix and on the master bus when you're working, and you can even put it on there and forget it's there, and then maybe
that's what I was actually going to say. That's a very key point that I didn't say in the workflow, but I don't do my final EQing until I put that on. You don't want to put it on after, because you're going to change
everything.
Get your levels soft, drop the compressor on, and then EQ into the compressor.
Good advice from Phil. Definitely. It's 2:00. We don't have to stop right immediately, but let's wind it down, and just see what's going on in the chat. We've had some really nice visitors today. Thanks to everybody, to the producers that have dropped in, to the artists that have dropped in today. We really appreciate that. And stick around with us. New Drexian asked, is this on every week? Yes, the show is on every week. To be honest, it's not always about electro, but I do mix it up. You'll notice that the original, the title of the show is Selway's Techno Saturdays, and you all know I do techno as well as electro. For me, it's all part of the same big world, and we can all get along. So hopefully you'll stop by for other genres and other things that we focus on. But that said, someone asked if we can get who other guests on, and Carl Finlow is definitely, I don't know, I've already emailed him, so I'm going to put this out into the world. Carl, if you're interested in hanging out with us and doing what Phil did today, we'd love to have you, and I'm sure a lot of the people watching the show would love to hear from you as well. So get back to me. And Anthony, thanks for dropping in. Really great to have you here. Congratulations again to our winner. And Phil, thank you once more for doing this. I know it was quite a bit of work to get to this point, and I believe the work really paid off. I know you were talking about that, like the work does pay off. So let's see. Why don't you turn your screen sharing off just so we can get a nice, good look at you, and everybody can check out our Electro uniform again here. Yeah, here we are with our baseball caps and our beards and our black T-shirts. Is that the Electro? I don't know. I don't know if that really is. I think that's more like
we'll say that one.
I think this is like the middle-aged guy look is really more.
The dad cap. These are called dad caps.
Dad caps. Yeah. All right. That's enough self-depreciation. Thanks to everybody for watching today. This was a really great session. I'm really happy to have done it. And, maybe we'll have you back again someday. We'll see.
Anytime, man.
All right, guys. So, oops. Look at me clicking the wrong. This just was the smoothest broadcast I ever did until I clicked the wrong scene. Thanks, everybody. Come back on Monday for Daltrick Tips and Tricks. She's going to be looking at reverb, and check in with us every day at 1:00. 34TV is on. Definitely come back for Abe Duque on Fridays. Sometimes I come in as a guest on that one, so I might see you then. And that's it for now. Have a good week, everybody. Adios.